Yes, there's a chicken in the house. I would not have done that, but I'm having technical issues today. This is Talulla's first time in the house, and so she's completely enamored. Everyone, this is Talulla. She is a barred rock hen, or a Plymouth Rock, they call it. And this is her first time indoors. So she's looking all around. Say hi to Talulla. And she's going to be our little star of the show today. So I asked some questions in our group last week about chickens. I'm working on a Southern backyard chicken course. And I want to know what people are thinking about when they're thinking of raising backyard hens. I was going to do this out by the chicken coop, but apparently it's real windy today and that's not good. And then my Wi-Fi wasn't working and I couldn't get anything to work, even on the porch. So we had to come in the kitchen, which is not where you should keep your chickens. However, I wanted to show you Talulla here. She's actually 8 years old, if you can believe that. Aren't you, girl? She looks pretty good for 8, doesn't she? You want to look over here? Show them how pretty you are. I'm going to have Grant take her away in just a minute because she's going to poop on me at any time. First off, before Grant takes her, I'll just show you a couple things about hens if you don't have chickens yet. I know some of you don't and you're asking questions about it. So this is her comb up here. Of course, now she's looking at the bag. She says, I see mealworms. This is her comb up here. And then this underneath is her wattle. You know, some of us who are pushing 50 have wattles too. That's her wattle. This is her beak, obviously. And her ears are off to the side. And a lot of times you can tell the color of the egg that the chicken will lay by the color of their ears. Now, Talulla lays light brown eggs. She's an old gal. She hasn't laid in quite a while, but when she does, they're kind of a light brown. And she's a feisty girl. She's actually fought off raccoons before and lived to tell about it. So she's pretty strong-willed, and I guess you'd have to be an 8-year-old chicken, right? Yes, I love barred rock. So I would get this breed again. She is very sweet. She's a hefty bird. She is kind of an independent personality, so, you know, but she's been a good hen, and she loves hanging out, and I'm going to send her off with Grant to go back outside and roost around a little bit. So let's see if we can do a transfer without a chicken flying around in the kitchen. Get your arms around her. Bye, Talulla. You got her? No. Okay, maybe we shouldn't have chickens in the kitchen. Okay. All right, now that we've established our connection, we've got everybody on here, I'm going to start answering your questions that you left for me the other day. And let's see, the first question I have written down was Melissa. Melissa Matheson asked that her husband's kind of on the fence about chickens, and he wants to know how much is it really. A very common question in households across America who are thinking about backyard chickens. And in our household, we went back and forth. First, it was Curtis saying, oh, we should get some hens for years. And then I would be the one saying it. And we went back and forth. And what was the deciding factor was I wanted the kids, my brilliant homeschooling idea, to learn where their food comes from. So why not get backyard chickens? I don't know. So I kind of went all out and I got 8 of them to start off with, which was not a good plan. I would recommend between 3 to 5 hens. And your cost that you have to think about is your coop. Your coop could be very inexpensive or it could be a bank buster. You got to think about that. We used a playhouse that we already had for the children, and we retrofitted it and converted it into a chicken coop. So in the beginning, that is going to be your expense, Melissa. So you'll want to think about how much you want to budget toward a coop. You can buy pre-made coops. You can buy coops online. You can buy coops at Costco and Tractor Supply, or you could find someone who builds coops. And Leslie Rester is with us live, and I'm going to have her post a picture of the coops that her son is building. They live in the Jacksonville area of Florida, and her son has started building coops. And so you can find someone who builds coops for you, or if you're handy, if your husband's handy or someone in your family, you could build a coop and keep your costs down. The second thing that would be costly or thinking about is then purchasing your hens. Now you can get little baby chicks for $1, $2, $5. That's kind of going to be what that runs. Talking about the chicks. So they're going to cost $2 to $5 for each chick. And then you're going to want to keep them, people call it a brooder, but in our house, it really was just a dog pen with a heat lamp. So you can be whatever you have, use what you have. Leslie can chime in on what she has used for her chicks, but that's what we did. It was it was a wired dog crate with a heat lamp, and then we had the feeder. So those are things that you're going to be your initial investment. And then the chicks eat a different type of food than your laying hen. And I always suggest doing that because it does contain the medicated for the babies, because we have had chicks to die. They're raised and born somewhere else. You don't know what they've picked up along the way. And that just kind of helps get their digestive system going. And, we learned that a little too late with 1 or 2. And then we learned what we needed to do. Some are going to be sick no matter what, but that's really kind of rare. And you can tell pretty quickly if a little baby chick is sick. And then when your hens are laying and their food, we buy food in 50-pound bags. I'm just going to keep looking to make sure I'm not missing anyone. And the feed costs about $28 for a 50-pound bag. Big bag of food. Now, when we had 7 or 8 hens, we would go through that in a month. Now we're down to 2, and they go through that maybe in 2 to 3 months. So average out how much. They say it's about 15 cents a day to feed your hen. So times that by the number of hens that you have, and that's roughly how much you're going to spend to feed them. And again, this can go either way. Now, hens love treats. And I do have mealworms. I don't buy them very often, but this bag will last me forever because I only have 2 chicks, old hens. And, I just give them treats when I'm trying to get them to come to me, let me pick them up and look at them. They also like scraps from your kitchen, and there's a whole list of things that you can feed your chickens from your kitchen. There's things you can't and should not feed your chickens from your kitchen. And then there is free ranging. So free ranging would be letting them in a run, which could be an enclosed coop, or letting them roam in your yard. And when they're doing that, they're going to be supplementing their food by eating bugs and different things of that nature. So supplementing is a good idea. So Melissa Matheson. So we're answering her question about how much does it really cost to have hens. So we talk about your initial investment of the coop. We talk about the initial investment of your chicks and the little feeder, and you have to give them water and a heat lamp. We actually just used one of those bendable lamps that the kids use at their desk. So you don't have to buy a lot of things. You can use what you have around the house and make do with that. We didn't use a brooder, we used a dog crate. You could use a Rubbermaid container, just something to keep them contained. Because let me tell you, little baby chicks can squeeze and get under anything and they'll be gone in an instant. That's the truth. We've had that happen before. Now you want healthy girls, so it's important to purchase your food. There's lots of websites that tell you how to make your own food, but unless you're really experienced raising chickens, I would not recommend doing that. And then you can find ways, if your husband still isn't convinced, you can find ways to earn money by having chickens. So Leslie's son is now building coops, and she is going to put a photo in there for you of the coops that he's building. We sold eggs. Leslie might sell eggs as well. You can sell eggs to your family and your friends and your neighbors, and that's a fabulous lesson for your kids. You can do all kinds of things with selling eggs. You can make a name for your little egg business. You can make artwork. You can come up with advertising, all different kinds of things you could do for that. And then you all know we started making and selling tote bags and purses out of the feed bags themselves. And that was a way for us to earn money by having chickens at home. The next question was from Mandy Cruz, and I don't see her online, but maybe she'll catch this later. And her question was, she got some hens from the neighbor, and she wanted to know about introducing new chicks to other hens. And this can be a little tricky. Introducing mixed hens can go good and it can go bad really quickly. And what we did, the number one thing is you want to make sure they're close to the same size. So if you have full-grown hens and then you have smaller ones, it's a tricky situation if you want to mix them. So it's better to wait until they're close to the same size, because the hens can be a little nasty and they might peck at the younger ones. And then if they're bleeding, that's going to cause a whole nother problem. So you would really want to pay attention to what's happening when you're introducing them. Now, what we did, we had pretty year-old hens. We had 5 or 6 of them. And then our rescue chicken, her name was Gypsy. We found her. We went to go look at a coop because I wanted to have a secondary coop. And it was someone who bought chickens at Easter, and they thought that would be a fun thing to give to their kids. And their kids lost interest in about a week. And they had gotten rid of one of the hens, but they had one left. Well, the number one thing about chickens is they are social creatures. You must have at least 2. So I suggest having at least 2 to 3. Anyone who has chickens is going to tell you they are social creatures, and there's a hierarchy in their society. That's what they get the name pecking order from. And they probably can survive, but they really don't thrive by themselves. So Gypsy, we named her because, she had different houses. She was alone. They said, oh, she doesn't lay eggs, and all she does is make this weird clucking noise all day long. And we don't even, we don't know what to do with her. And my husband says, you are not putting that chicken in my truck when we got there. And by the time we hem-hawed around about the coop and we made an offer, he says, put the chicken in the truck. And so we brought home this new bird, and we named her Gypsy, which was very fitting for her. But when you introduce new birds, especially if they came from somewhere else and you already have chickens, you want to quarantine them. You all know what quarantine's like, right? You want to quarantine the one or however many. Dog crate works just fine. You want to quarantine them for several days and really kind of, look them over and make sure they're healthy. Their wattle and their comb look good, that their eyes are bright, they don't seem to be scratching, that they don't have some sort of infection, and that would be really important. And once you determine that, then you can introduce them to your hens. Now, how we did it, I love my chickens. They all have personalities, but when it gets dark, they kind of go into a trance and they don't know anything. And that's why you have to predator-proof their coops, because they cannot defend themselves when they're in that nighttime chicken trance. So what we did was we took Gypsy at night after everyone was asleep, and we put her in the coop. And we just prayed that it would work. And this is what happened. I went in the next day, right when they woke up, and it was like, huh, have you been here all the time? All right, welcome to the girls club. And they were fine. And everybody got along from then on. She was low down in the hierarchy of the pecking order, but she was somewhat accepted to the clan. Now, she was an odd hen from the beginning. She was one of our best producers of eggs, but she had led a pretty traumatized life until we got her, and she was about 2 when we got her. So she was an oddball, but we loved her, and she lived a good long life, and then she passed away one day laying an egg. But that's how we introduced Gypsy. Now, another thing you could do was if you let your chickens free range, you could try introducing them when they're outside of their coop and see how they interact outside of the coop. If everything seems okay, then let the new ones follow the old ones back into the coop. If it didn't go so well, separate them and try again the next day. Again, if you wanted to, and see how that works. But anytime you're introducing hens, it's a tricky situation because of personalities. They all have the different personalities. So you want to be careful of that. And it might take a couple tries, and eventually it's going to work out. But the main goal is that they're closer to size. That would be the one thing that you want to think about. She also talked about bullies. She said that one of the ones that they have is a bully. And bullies are prevalent in your flock. And, you know, we don't have roosters. Leslie, do you have roosters where you are? She might, because she lives on a farm. We live in a suburban neighborhood. We do not have roosters. And what happens is you're going to have a hen always, whether there's a rooster or not. They are going to be the queen chick. They're going to be in charge. And she sets the pecking order. Now, some hens actually will take on the form of being a rooster. They will be aggressive to the other hens. They will keep them in line. They will watch for predators while others are eating. And those are all really good qualities, but sometimes you feel like they're really being mean. They can, if they don't like what a hen is doing, they'll just go over there and peck them on the head. And if you watch, I wouldn't like being pecked on the head either, but they kind of deal with it and get used to it. You'll see that some will see them coming and just kind of like get away from them. But there's always going to be a queen chick. Don't you agree, Leslie, that that is the pecking order? And everyone has their place. So if you have 5 hens, you're going to have number 1 and you're going to have number 5. And it generally doesn't change in between there, because the queen chick is going to have her best bud and they kind of hang out. And then they might let that 3rd one tag along and be part of the group. And the rest of them, it just depends on the day if they're all joined in. And so Leslie does have a rooster, and she could probably answer questions if you have rooster questions where you live, where you can have a rooster. Now, Joy Resikar, I think that's how you say her name, she asked about chicks and putting them into the coop. Let's see, what? 20, okay. Putting them into the coop. So the number one thing that you want to consider before you put your baby chicks into their coop is if they're at least 6 weeks old and they have their big girl feathers. So they have to be able to control their temperature, and they're able to do that on their own when they have their big girl feathers. Not the cute little fluffy little baby chickie feathers. They have to have gone through and built in their big girl feathers. And that way they can regulate their temperature. And if you live in the South, like we do, you know, we have a lot more warm weather and we're probably more able to put chicks out. Now, depending on the coop, you could offer a heat source if they still need it, but you always want to be very careful about that, because you can start a fire, and you definitely don't want to start a fire. You don't want to burn down your coop. You don't want to burn down your house or harm your chickens. So it's best to take care of them where you can monitor them with the heat source before you put them in the coop. Now, if you have a coop that has a run, meaning where you open a little door, they have a little ramp where they can get into an outdoor area that's completely enclosed and part of their coop. You should be able to close that off, because unless you're able to get in there and get to them from that underneath part, because a lot of coops you're not able to get down in there, because sometimes they can get stuck, or sometimes you need to be able to get to your smaller babies. And if you can't get into that run, then you don't want to open that door. So you can keep them in your coop with that run door closed. And as long as they have their food and their water, and you're keeping it clean, because that's the number one thing with chicks and their survival and their healthiness, is keeping their area clean. So we talked about they need to be fully feathered. They need to be able to regulate their body temperature. And let me see if I'm missing anything else. Oh, Leslie says that they moved. And so they see a change in their rooster. Now, does anybody else have any questions about raising backyard hens? So we're talking about suburban backyard chickens. And I am more familiar with raising 3 to 5 to 7 hens. We've been doing it for 9 years. And right here in our backyard, they are wonderful. What I didn't know about chickens is that they have a fabulous, each one has their own personality. You become fast friends. You love and you're engaged in the way that they peck around on the ground, and their order and the way that they live just seems so peaceful. And it's been a wonderful thing for me and for the kids. And of course, it's been an excellent educational lesson for them as well. Melissa. So Melissa Matheson has boys, and I bet your boys could probably build a coop, and we can talk about that. And I think it would be a great lesson for them, for all the kids. Having fresh eggs is an amazing experience. And in these particular times that we're living through, we don't know that we might not face this again. And I think a lot of people are really looking to be able to have some sort of control, even a little bit, over their food supply. And being able to go into your own backyard and get that egg out of the coop and have it for breakfast or collecting your eggs is an amazing experience. And then after a while, what happens is you become an egg snob. Because it is the truth, your backyard eggs are completely different than what you buy in the grocery store. You know, we're having to buy eggs in the grocery store, and we have for a while, because now we don't get too many eggs from our girls until we build a new coop. We aren't getting any more new ones, so we just have our 2 old ladies out there. And there is a complete difference. Now, if you've never had backyard eggs, you don't think anything about it until that's what you start eating. And you realize how wonderful, what a blessing it is. And every time I get an egg, I thank them. I thank Rosetta for laying an egg for us and providing food. And it's a neat experience to find a way to be in control of your food source. Now, we're doing a lot of talk about gardening lately. A lot of people are growing victory gardens. Mary Beth put a link to my video that I posted on YouTube. Let me see if there's any more questions. So I'd love for you to go over to YouTube and watch that video. Now, I did make one specifically for you guys. Mary Beth is texting me. Melissa asked about snakes getting in your eggs. Great question. I have never had that problem. Some people do. Now, a lot of you have been here to our home here in Central Florida. We've got woods, we've got everything here, but I have not had that problem, and I'm not sure why. Leslie or Kim, have you ever had an issue with snakes getting into your coop? They would probably get into the nest box because they're after eggs. One thing that you would pay attention to is to go out there and check for your eggs every day. Check in the morning and check in the early afternoon, and not leave eggs in there. You wouldn't leave eggs in there for several reasons. Number one is you don't want your chickens to peck at the egg and eat the egg. that's a whole nother subject. We can talk about another time. And sometimes some breeds, and this, I mean, only in certain seasons when they go broody. And I have a post on that, Mary Beth. It's the broody hen post where I talk about broody hens and we talk about molting. And when they do that, hens will go broody. So if you're going to leave eggs in the nest, they're like, oh, it's my babies. And they want to go and sit on it. And then no one else can lay their eggs. And then that affects your egg production. And that's a whole nother topic as well. So I have not had that issue with snakes. Again, this is where you want to have your coop predator proof. You don't really want to have entrances for snakes and rodents and things like that to get into your coop. We have a rodent issue right now that we're trying to take care of, and that's really because our coop is leaning towards the shabby chic side. And so Kim says that they had a huge black snake eating eggs, and I will let her post right in there on how she took care of that problem. But again, I've not had that. Leslie has not had that problem. So are there any other questions? Mary Beth will let me know. She let me know by text if there's any other questions, because I've already kept you guys for 30 minutes and that's kind of long to keep you guys. I'm sorry it didn't work out to be outside by the coop today, but our internet is spotty at best. And then with everyone home, I guess it barely works at all. So that wasn't going to work out for me today. It usually works out better if I go out there and take a video and then upload it, but I kind of wanted to be live with you guys and see if I could answer any more questions. Okay, there's 2 new comments. Let me see if I can get to them. So Mary Beth put the post up for the broody hen where you can read about that. Leslie has 2 hens sitting right now. They're on fertilized days because she does have a rooster. So if you did not know, you do not need a rooster to have eggs, but you do need a rooster if you want baby chicks to hatch from your eggs. Although she had to mark all the eggs because you still have a few that want to keep laying in that box. Nesting box is another topic for another day. But if no one else has any more questions, Mary Beth, thank you guys for joining us. And Mary Beth, thank you so much for helping me, because I can't ever seem to get the questions. Everything is so slow in our suburban homestead here. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining me today. Again, if you have questions on anything, any of our topics that we're doing, I want to be able to come in live or record something for you to help you out. Sometimes it's easier for me to make a video than it is to type it all out. If it's something that needs to be typed out, I will. But I love to, I know I can't see you, but I love to see you online. I missed. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. If you're joining us later and watching this later, go ahead and post any of your comments in here and I'll go back and answer those questions. We are talking about backyard chickens, and we were answering 3 questions that members had from a post the other day. We talked about how much it costs to raise backyard hens, roughly. We talked about introducing mixed hens, different ages, and then we talked about bringing new chicks into a coop and how old they should be and what that should look like. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will catch up with you later. Have a great afternoon. I hope you enjoyed seeing Talulla. Next time we'll bring Rosetta on for her Facebook Live debut. Thank you.